Anywho, we have been very off topic, and luckily it hasn't been for an entire hour. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it because we got some stuff to talk about today. And apparently we're going to be looking at Frank Turek, who thinks that atheists get some stuff very wrong about morality and the moral argument. Because the fan art section right here said, first thing I made for here, I'm not good at art of humanoids. If this is shown, I am afurrygamer666 from the Twitch chat. Well, afurrygamer666, thank you very much for this piece. And you know what? All art is valid art. I've regretted saying that before when people keep on dropping coins, but you know, I'm still going to hold to it. My principles are more important than my shame. The next bit we have here is from Yambao, and this is adorable. Said, my first fan art, I hope you like. I do like. I really like this style. The next one we have here is from Doom Skywalker. Said, my first fan art. Well, thank you very much, Doom Skywalker, for the fan art. And I like seeing the hammer featured whenever it can. As always, everyone, thank you so much for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be featured in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With all that said, if you haven't already subscribed or hit the bell notification icon or checked out the sponsor of today's video, Magic Spoon, you can do all that stuff. The sponsor itself, though, you can find in the description below. There will be a link there, and you can use coupon code STREAM1021, all caps, and that will give you some very tasty, healthy cereal with a discount for it as well. So that's a thing. Also, Forever Dungeon Master, thank you for redeeming your points for an OWL. And with that said, let's get in.
Our point is,
Frank, you're real low.
not that we disagree with Sam Harris in his book, The Moral Landscape, that human flourishing is a good thing. We do agree with that.
I love how he's got in this video, we're going to talk about this, but it's a 3-minute video?
I'm assuming you have read Harris's Moral Landscape all the way through.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I did too, and I want you to know, like, I'm on your side. I believe, like, God definitely authors morality, but I think in Stealing from God, I think you may have, like, slightly neglected Harris's argument.
Okay, go ahead.
I think Sam makes I had to write this down. I think Sam made a pretty good point about pain being correlated to well-being. And like, again, I believe God authors morality, but I think we shouldn't brush over the idea that Sam does establish kind of a baseline for morality and well-being. I think the metaphor he put was, if you can imagine a world where everyone experienced the most pain possible, we can at least all objectively agree that anything else but that would be better. And because he has a baseline, even though it may get foggier down the road with where an atheistical sense of morality could be, even though it does get foggy, I think he does establish a paradigm there, and there's a plane, especially since he did have that baseline. For the question, basically, I want you to expound more than you did in Stealing from God, like, at least you can, like, in this amount of time.
You want him to expound more than he did in his own rebuttal? Okay, interesting.
I wonder if maybe we didn't explain ourselves clearly in there, Jack, because our point is not that we disagree with Sam Harris in his book, The Moral Landscape, that human flourishing is a good thing. We do agree with that. What we don't agree with is the foundation for that. Because if there is no God, then why human flourishing?
Because we are humans. I hate that it has to be that simple, but, like, why human flourishing? Because we are human. That's it. We're a selfish species. We look after ourselves more than any other. We can expand our selfishness to feel altruistic by exchanging that, hey, let's look after ourselves to let's look after our species. Some fucking idiots take that to say, let's look after our race, and then they do the 14 words or some dumb shit, but realistically, humans being selfish and looking after themselves, That's the reason why humans. Why human flourishing? Because we are human. If we do something that is better for everyone around us, it also selfishly benefits us individually. That's the why. It's very simple. Tylo, thank you for redeeming your points for Ada. Fucking degen. But, anywho, let's go ahead and see where this goes, because I feel like that may end up being the breadth of my disagreement.
Why not dolphin flourishing?
Because we're not dolphins. We can't establish meaningful relationships with dolphins the same way we can with other humans. I'm not saying we can't establish bonds. Also, somebody just did a magic spoon thing. Thank you very much for that. That is greatly appreciated. So when it comes to any animal, we can have very deep, meaningful relationships with animals. We can. I have 2 dogs. I have 6 cats. I had a bunny. That, I'm still sad about that. But, point is, we can have very deep and meaningful relationships with our animals. We can have a loving bond with our animals, and it hurts when our animals pass because we usually live longer than them unless you have a turtle. 6 cats? I thought you had 3. Wait, Hat, Featherboa, Thumper had an infection. The infection got to his brain. Like, it happened within 24 hours, and there was a 2-week wait for the vet, and most vets around me could not take bunny rabbits. That's what happened. It sucks, and I'm not going to talk about it any further because I want to maintain composure for the rest of this video. So, we can maintain very, very, very good relationships with people as well, but the types of relationships we can have with people typically end up being deeper and not necessarily more meaningful, but there's more capacity for meaning there. Because I can say, hey, Growlithe, you're a wonderful dog, and I love you. I will feed you, I will pet you. When I sleep, you will cuddle up next to me, and you will be my best friend until the day you pass on. But there's an infinite number of things, an infinite number of conversations I can have that are 2-way instead of 1-way with people. So why would we want to advocate as a priority for our species, our own species? Because the relationships we establish with our own species tend to be more meaningful than the relationships we have elsewise. This doesn't mean that there aren't individual situations where somebody might go, hey, I hate people, but I like my cats, or hey, I hate people, but I love my dog. That can happen. I'm talking about at a macro level, as our species exists, as people exist. You individually, you might hate people. And you know what? I get it. I understand. People do weird, nasty things like playing Storm in Magic the Gathering. Not a big fan of that. But that's kind of the end. That's the end-all be-all for that. When it comes to just at the baseline, our ability to communicate and establish meaningful relationships, that capacity is nigh infinite when it comes to other humans. Jermaine says the emotional link to animals can be the same, the intellectual cannot. Yeah, because I can't ponder the infinitesimal minutia of different brands of morality with Chip. It doesn't help that he's only got 1 brain cell and he licks the color purple as a job, but it's also the fact that he's a dog. And so if I try to have that conversation with him, I'll be musing to myself. I may come to a rubber duck style epiphany during that, but no, I'm not really going to get much more than that. And there's nothing wrong with that. The place that animals have in our lives doesn't need to be the intellectual stimuli that having people is. It doesn't need to be that. They are there in terms of them being our pets, them being our family members. They're there for the emotional bond. That's what they care about. That's what you care about. They can be very smart creatures. But again, that depth is going to be greater with other people. So trying to make a world where other people are happier, other people are flourishing more, other people are doing better, will naturally lead to a world where you are doing better. if I am focusing entirely on making the world better for dogs, for instance, there is a likelihood that I will inevitably find myself making the world worse for a handful of humans, or even a lot of humans. I may make the perfect world for dogs and end up harming humans in the process. The Shadow Wolf, thank you very much for the sub, said, hi, Telraz. I said hi. I will do so. But that said, we're going to continue on here. But the long and short of it is, animals are important. As a species, other people are more important to us at a macro level. That's why we tend to focus on them.
Yeah, I think what Sam
Or
is
cowboy flourishing.
I think what Sam is mostly establishing is like, I think there's definitely like a metaphysical aspect to it, but when you get down to more or less like, especially like neurons and like the way the human body feels pain, I think he does have like somewhat of a case that at least physical pain on that paradigm holds weight for something of an objective morality. Again, like
But why is it wrong to inflict pain on people, according to him?
Why is it wrong to inflict pain on people? Because people would prefer you not inflict pain on them. I don't like the pain argument. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. I don't like the pain argument. Thank you for the posture check. Fort spinning. I think the suffering argument is better. When you focus on pain, you ignore the fact that pain can actually cause pleasure for several individuals, and not even necessarily in a kinky sense. For some people, like, they just enjoy the pain of a workout, the pain of stressors. Like, those are things that some people actually flourish in and prefer. Suffering, on the other hand, is a unilateral bad, unless you're that one guy from the Deadly Six that was really weird about it. But we're not talking about Sonic the Hedgehog right now.
I think because when you...
What if you get enjoyment from it?
Again, what if you get enjoyment from it doesn't matter? It's about what they would prefer. Humans as a social species have a unspoken social contract with one another. So if the other person does not want me harming them, then I should not be harming them. That's kind of where it goes. Exceptions apply for self-defense and shit like that, but by and large, other person doesn't want to be hurt, and you shouldn't be hurting them. It's remarkably simple. It doesn't require you to sit down and ponder the infiniteness of the cosmos. It is awkwardly simple. I'm also not a fan of the golden rule, come to think of it. The do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because, like, if you're a masochist, do unto others and cause them pain because you would want that done to you. No. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. Probably better. How's it going, Bonbon?
Well, I think like that's a question that, I mean, I've heard your response to this question a couple times, but I think that's definitely sort of how we would say the moral law is written on our heart. And again, I would concur with that. I think even from a secular standpoint,
The amount of times that he has to go like, bro, I'm a Christian. Bro, I'm a Christian. Bro, I agree with you. Bro, I agree with you. It feels weird. It feels weird. Not to like shit on the guy. He seems like he's really sincere. It feels strange.
there's a base given knowledge that physical pain...
hang on, Jack, because we got a long line behind you.
Yeah, I understand.
I see what you're saying. This is not an epistemological problem. It's an ontological problem. It's not how we know what good and bad behavior is. It's how do you define what good and bad behavior is in the absence of God? How do you...
in the absence of God. Behavior that increases the net suffering in the world. How do we define suffering? We can do so in a variety of ways. Suffering can be defined as the discomfort on varying levels up to and including torment, even beginning with mere uncomfortability. These can all be forms of suffering that a person undergoes. We know that if we are engaging in an amount of suffering, if that amount of suffering does not come with it an excess of happiness, not just for the individual we are inflicting that on, but for society as a whole, then mathematically we don't do the thing. For instance, it may cause someone like Hitler to suffer, for us to, go into his bunker and do some gamer things to him, get a kill streak that involves him as part of it, so that we can, do all kinds of things in Call of Duty afterwards. That may make that person suffer. However, as a species, we are lowering the amount of suffer our species has to deal with, because he, as an individual, increases the amount of suffering we all deal with. When you bully a random trans person, you aren't increasing the net happiness in the world. You're gaining a modicum of catharsis, and you're making a person experience a wealth of trauma. Mathematically, it just does not work. It breaks down. You're gaining a moment of happiness, and they are not gaining a moment of sadness. We know that your elation is going to die off, and you're going to forget that this ever happened, but that person's going to remember the trauma you did to them basically forever, until the day they die. You're going to be a thing they remember. That's how trauma works. So even just looking at it through the cold, cruel lens of just straight up math, you're increasing their suffering is increasing net suffering in the world. If we've already established that we are humans as a species, so trying to get humans as a species to experience less suffering, experience more flourishing, is a good thing, we can run that as just our axiom. Human flourishing is good. Once we've established it as an axiom, we don't have to try to fucking prove it, because that's how axioms work. Axioms are brute statements we use as foundational principles going forward. Now that we've established flourishing is what we're going for, let's talk about how we make flourishing happen. Trans person is there on the street. Do you increase human flourishing when you affirm them, or when you shit on them? Don't care about your individual thoughts on trans people. Don't give a shit about that. You can be the biggest bigot and transphobe in the world. I don't care right now, for the sake of this particular argument. What I care is the material effect you have on the world. You have two options: invalidate their identity or affirm it. Affirming it is going to cause them infinitely more happiness than your catharsis was going to be in the first place, and it causes neither of you any suffering. Invalidating their gender identity causes them infinitely more suffering than the catharsis you are gaining in that instance. So not only is suffering being added to the conundrum, but we aren't getting more happiness insofar as we can even measure them. So no, you don't have to be like, how do we know? Because again, like you said, it's not an epistemological question. It's ontological. How do we work in the absence of God? Okay, cool. Pure, cold-hearted calculation, nothing but math. Just, hey, how much are people flourishing versus how much are they suffering? Did your action increase one or the other? And if so, how much? That's it. That, again, the concept of like how specifically do we measure this doesn't really matter, because all you have to do is go, hey, how long did that one event make you happy? How long did it make the other person upset? 6 seconds for you? 6 months for them, maybe? Who knows? It's not a gamble worth taking in any case, so just don't be an asshole.
Discover what good is. Remember, if there's no purpose to the game, you can't say that, oh, this play is a better play than this other play.
There doesn't have to be a purpose to the game. We can just agree that we're playing. Games don't have to have a purpose. If you agree that we're playing it, we have a social contract between the two of us. We agree we're playing the game of whose asshole is it anyway. You get to choose whether or not you're the asshole. Morality's not... morality is simultaneously more complicated than people try to make it out to be, and also infinitely more simple than it has any reason to be.
This behavior is a better behavior than another behavior if there's no purpose to life.
We don't need a purpose to life there. Which behavior is increasing the suffering versus which behavior is increasing the flourishing? That's simple. Which one begot happiness? Which one begot anger? Come on, Frank. This is dumb.
Understood.
And there is no purpose to life on Harris's atheistic, materialistic worldview.
actually there's plenty of purpose in life. So I hate this idea that you need a god to give you purpose. I think it's infinitely dumb. I say this because this is like saying, hey, you cannot be the most important thing in your life. You can't be. It's impossible for you to. Because if you are the one determining what your purpose is, what makes you happy, what you care about, that's not important in this worldview. What's important for you is a person who set wheels in motion billions of years ago to eventually lead to you existing, who you hear that he cares about you a lot, but realistically, you don't have a whole lot of evidence for that, and this parasocial relationship has been really awkward. It's actually amazing how many parallels there are between some people's relationship with YouTubers and some religious relationships with God. But there is a person, apparently, out there who cares so much about the things that you do and how you are functioning that they need you to do things based on how they set up your life to go. They have a purpose for you. You need to follow it. Otherwise, something. There's never actually been a point where somebody's been able to show me in the Bible what happens when you don't do the thing God intended for you to do, or even how the fuck to find out what he intended for you to do. So ultimately, I think it's better even for Christians to operate as if that's not a thing. God gave you a life and volition, so you should be able to choose your own things in life and just operate that way. Shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world. You should be allowed, by a deity or by not, to choose your purpose in life. And that should be infinitely better than somebody else choosing your purpose for you. How many times have you heard of somebody being upset that there was a purpose that was put forward by a parent for their child? They wanted their child to be a football star. They wanted their child to be a ballerina. They wanted their child to be somebody in the IT field, a doctor, what have you. But the child wanted to be an artist, an archaeologist, a teacher, a historian. And those likes didn't line up. Who do we usually side with? Usually we side with the child. Hey, these are the things you want to do when you grow up. Do those things. You'll be happier doing the things you chose for yourself. If we're to look at God the same way that we're to look at parents, which is something the Bible has explicitly said, like the relationship to God is like the relationship between a child and their parent. The relationship to God is like the relationship between a wife and a husband. Like, it's all hierarchies. If we're looking at these like just blank ass hierarchies and God's like a parent, why do we make that exception there? I don't think we should. And this is just granting God exists. I don't think he does. But granting that he exists, his purpose for you either matters less than your purpose for you, or because he works in mysterious ways, maybe your purpose for you is one that he actually set out and, you know, you chose it. I don't know. Sorry for that rant there, but like I've never liked this idea that the purpose you choose for yourself is somehow less than the purpose that some other random ass person chose for you.
Concur. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
All right, thanks, Jack. By the way, Jack, that's good you brought that up, because that is the biggest, I think, disconnect that atheists have on the moral argument. They always confuse epistemology and ontology.
No. Okay, so epistemology is how we know shit. Ontology is what actually exists. So how do we know morality exists? I don't give a fuck. As for whether or not it exists, guess what? I also don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter. All that matters is how we operate with one another in our own material conditions. There is no confusion here on my part. There's simply frustration that morality is tied to a deity ever.
Epistemology is how you know something. Ontology is the study of the thing you know. Why does that thing exist to begin with? And I think that's what they always forget.
As I evidenced literally before he said it in the clip, when it is a clip I haven't watched yet, no, there is no confusion from me, only frustration that we're still here. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section below. It's it's been fun going back and doing more like atheisty content as opposed to just political content. I've missed it, but we are going to have to go back to political content in the next episode, or the next episode on stream. Whatever episode goes up next is up to which episodes do or do not get monetized by the YouTube algorithm. So, you know, random for YouTube, not random for Twitch. Anywho, as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.